That's what I love about paid advertising is, to me, it's a lot more predictable revenue than hoping I get a referral, than hoping that that piece of content I put out really resonates this time and it's going to get all the clicks. This to me is much more consistent. Yes, it's colder traffic, but my numbers month over month are a lot more consistent in terms of what it is that I'm closing.
You're an inspiration to our entire organization.
Welcome to the Gym Marketing Made Simple podcast. We're going to be talking the done-for-you marketing and sales strategies proven to work with boutique fitness gyms to increase quality lead flow and grow your revenue. Don't try to be a professional marketer and waste tons of money. Let the experts at Lasso do it for you. And now, here are your hosts, Blake Ruff and Sherman Merritt.
All right, guys, here we go. Another episode of Gym Marketing Made Simple. Sherman here with Blake, as usual. But today we have a special guest, Tommy, from I'm not going to even tell you his gym's name. I'm not going to even tell it to you because I don't want you to go try to bother him too much until we get going. Guys, I'm excited for this episode because we're going to dive into the numbers, right? For all you guys that are tune into the numbers. This is going to be an episode that you can geek out on with Blake and Tommy. I'm sort of on the other side. I'm just like, hey, I just need to close them. They'll deal with the numbers once they get on. But these guys are going to really break down the ROI from working with us because, you know, with all of us being gym owners, we understand that you guys need to make the money back that you're spending each and every month. And here at Lasso, we sort of pride ourselves in gyms making an ROI from working with us. And the longer you work with us, you know, the bigger your ROI is going to be. You know, we just got some great news today. A gym that started with us, I remember when they first started, they were sort of slightly under 19K. So, you know, okay, gym. And then this past month, August, so it's been August of 2024. Blake, how long have they been with us? You know? A couple years, though, because it was at...
Yeah, HSN, so that'll be 2 years.
Yeah, so this gym, they started off with us. They were like right at like 19K. They've been with us for a couple years now. And in April, they just hit 47K. Now, those are the type of stories we love to dive into, which obviously we're going to get them a blog on the podcast, all of that. But like those are the type of numbers that we like to see, guys. And from the beginning, those ladies at Fit Mamas, they were like, we're in this for the long haul. We want this to grow the gym. We've tried everything. And then, as usual, one of the big things, they actually listened to everything that we said, like everything. Like they didn't push back on anything. They did it. And then, you know, 24 months later, they've more than doubled their revenue. So shout out to Fit Mamas. Congrats, ladies. Let's keep crushing it. But Blake, I'm going to let you take it off because I know you and Tommy are going to sort of geek out and leave me on the sideline. I'm going to jump in every now and then. But, like, what do we want to start this thing as far as these numbers, man?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is a lot of gym owners think, you know, I mean, you guys know, but like when you guys invest in like stocks and whatever it may be, like a 10% return is like amazing. But we get on calls all the time and these guys are like, hey, I need to make like my money back and like double my money the first month, right? Just very unrealistic. Well, sometimes that happens, right? Like there's amazing testimonies that people get 40 members in the first month. But what we, and you alluded to, like to focus on is the long-term growth. That you have to think of marketing as the oxygen to your business. And on the flip side too, you might be at the point, like we've gone on so many calls lately with people that are part of mentor companies that are like, I've been, you know, it's great that you are setting up your systems and processes and all of that. That's super important. But you get to a point that you have to grow and you're basically just net every month, just kind of breaking even. And that paid marketing is what really takes you over the edge. So Tommy is really the numbers guy. I love data. Like, you know, I love just looking at the numbers, not basing off feelings. Like, hey, this is what it's saying. This is how you need to either invest more. This is where you're going to be in 12 months. But I think Tommy is really good at being able, especially on the last call I was on with one of the gym owners, being like, hey, in 3 months or 6 months or whatever, this is where you're going to be at. So I'm going to let him really kind of just go and talk about, even because he's also one of our coaches, his experience and then how he can relate this to the growth of your own gym.
Awesome, guys. Yeah. So, and Blake, you can tag team with me on this one. I feel like a lot of people, when they first hear about paid advertising, we all just kind of remember the heyday of like Alex Hormozi, gym launch, 6-week challenges. This is where like, our industry kind of evolved from. And I think at the time, and Blake, you can speak to this more eloquently than I can, you know, getting into paid advertising on Facebook and Instagram at that time, you could probably, I don't know, Blake, what was cost per lead back in the day with Alex Hormozi?
I mean, it was probably like in the $5 range. I mean, and it was, I think the big thing, it was new, right?
Yeah.
Like it was, and so people that were I think the bigger thing is the people that were consuming the content didn't have as much knowledge as they have now, right? Like now you get on Facebook and every single, advertising, and it's an advertisement. Whereas before it's like curiosity. What is this, right? So you're getting a lot cheaper leads and you're getting a lot more volume. So you can put whatever out there. And it's really transitioned over the course of, I would say, even because more so of consumer knowledge than anything else, that like they can sniff through, right? Like this seems like a little too good to be true. This kind of seems like a scam. So you really have to have good copywriting, good images to be like, hey, they actually sound like they understand what I need as a, somebody, and especially when we're talking about fitness, what my fitness goals are, and they're being very clear on what they provide, not a gimmicky like free and all this kind of stuff, because free is always bringing them free, right? So, cost per lead, industry average now, when back in the 6-week challenge days was probably around $5. Industry average now is $27 to $37 per lead across fitness gyms. So, almost like a 600% increase. So you have to be that much better, right? Which means you have to have that much better systems and you have to keep track of your data that much more.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things I know Alex always talked about was like, if you get really good at this stuff and you're getting $5 per leads, you can really implement what's called like self-funded client acquisition, which basically means whatever it is that you're selling at the time for him, it was the 6 weeks challenge, which I'd have to check out the price point, but I believe it was somewhere between like the $400 to $600 range, whatever it was. If you're paying $5 per lead, there usually was enough profit generated from that revenue after you paid your staff to deliver for fulfillment, basically, to pay for your ad budget. And so I think sometimes like the mentality, especially for us gym owners who have been in this for a very long time, is kind of remembering the heyday of the Alex Hormozi days of like, hey, like I can get away with charging, $300, $400, $500 memberships up front, and that was able to create enough profit for me to pay for my own advertising. So I think when we jump on sales calls or even coaching calls, and a lot of gym owners are like, hey, I'm expecting to see this 100% ROI in month one. I always like to lay that foundation of like, hey, I understand why your mindset is there, but the marketplace and the landscape has changed quite a bit in the digital ad space. And I think the way that I like to frame it with my clients is like, okay, if Blake and Lasso and the team are producing below average cost per lead, meaning like Blake's doing really well with his ad copy. I think we're averaging around 15 cost per lead across the board. Sometimes it's a lot lower, sometimes it's a little bit higher, but it's about 15, right? So if you're doing $15 $15 cost per lead on a $750 ad budget, we can expect about 50 leads per month, which is excellent, right? Now, it's cold traffic. And Sherman, you always talk about like, hey, like if you're converting 20% of that traffic, you're in the top, I don't know, what would you say, Sherman, X% of salespeople in the industry.
Yeah, top. I mean, you're at the top of the food chain at 20%.
Right. So if we're converting at 20%, that means on average, guys, every month, if we're getting 10 new clients based on paid ads, we're doing incredibly, incredibly well. Okay. But in order to cover, a $750 ad spend plus the agency fee that you pay to Lasso, which ranges depending on how long you've been working with us, that's a lot of money you have to generate in front end revenue to get 100% profit. Or going back to what we originally discussed, kind of like self-funded client acquisition. So I'll share my screen just so we're not just talking past each other, and
Okay.
make sure you guys can see actual numbers. So, all right, can you guys see my screen?
Oh,
Yes?
yep.
Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir. We're good.
Okay, so I'll start from the top. I'll walk all the viewers through this. If you're listening via podcast, guys, I apologize. I'll try to explain it as we go through it as well. But if we assume a $750 ad spend, and let's say you just started working with Lasso and our agency fees around $1,500 per month for the first 6 months, the total cost for, let's just call it like your marketing budget to hire us, but to also implement the ads, it's about $2,250 per month. Okay. If cost per lead's at $15 a head, we're going to generate about 50 leads per month. If we're converting at 20%, which myself, Sherman, Dave, Rob, Amy, our entire job is to help gym owners not only get clear on what it is we're working towards, but how close can we get your systems and processes and just overall sales acumen to where you're converting at 20%. That's our goal, right? If wherever the bottleneck is in your sales funnel, if we can get you close to 20% conversion, we know we're putting you in the top tier of gyms in the United States, probably in the entire world.
Yep.
So if we get 10 new clients per month, that means total cost to acquire a client using digital ads is $225. Okay, that's how much it costs you to acquire one new client going through this entire process. Now, even though I sold a membership, whether that's like, nutrition plus fitness or personal training or a high ticket mentorship type offer, my goal, and I know this is usually the best hours of the day, the two brain businesses, whatever mentorship company you're working with, aiming for about a 30% profit margin for your business is a very, very good goal. So if we're implementing a 30% profit margin, that means in order to get $225 of return back on that client that we just acquired, we need to be selling something at a $750 price point on that first month. Okay, so all I did was just took 225 divided by the profit margin. We need to be selling something at $750 month one. Fulfillment's going to cost me roughly, $525. That's paying my coaching staff, my nutrition coaches, overhead, whatever it is, so that I can generate $225 back to the business so that again, self-funded client acquisition. Now, Sherman, let me pause there.
Okay.
In your gym, when you had it, what did it take? What were you selling where it was worth $750 in month one? What does that package typically look like?
Yeah, so for that, it definitely would have been either a personal training package or a combination of personal training and nutrition coaching. That's what it
Okay.
would have. Yep.
Exactly. And you ran an excellent gym. Blake, I know you ran two gyms. Does that sound about the same to you, Blake? Is like, I got to be selling probably PT, nutrition tacked on, something that's higher end.
Yes.
100%.
How many people that came into your gym were willing to spend that much money in month one?
10% of them.
Yeah.
10% of them at tops. Tops.
Okay. And everybody else was generally spending what coming into the gym?
For me, just say 250 for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 to 250. Yep.
Perfect. Right. So just to give listeners, kind of just to complete this circle, if we're talking about 100% ROI month one, if we're talking about self-funded client acquisition in today's market landscape of $15 leads, Blake's crushing it on the ad copy because he's below the industry average in terms of cost per lead. And we make you some of the top salespeople in the industry. This is what you need to be selling in order to do that. And usually when I coach our clients through this, I'll pause and I'll ask them, I say, how realistic does that sound? And I think once we kind of connect those dots, they say that I get it. Like I get like not everyone's going to not only be able to afford that, but I could be the best salesperson in the world. One of my favorite movies, Tommy Boy, I could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. It's just unrealistic for us to be successful with that. Right.
Correct.
Now the good news is that if we were to have somebody come into our gym and we sat down for a no sweat intro or a consultation or whatever it was, and they were like, hey, Sherman, I want to completely change my health, my life, and become a completely different person in month one, what would you say to them in that consultation?
I would tell them, listen, um, we can't help you become a totally different. You've been on this track for the last, let's just make up numbers, 5 years, living this life that you're trying to reach these goals. You haven't been doubted into your nutrition, your fitness. So, like in a month, we can start making headway, but you're still going to have a lot of work to do after that initial month.
Right. The same reason why a lot of our clients and ourselves included, and we would never consult this way. The 21-day trials, the 4-week challenges, the 30-day shreds, whatever it is, we don't like to use this language because a lot of our clients are focused on people's health for the long term, right? Like, hey, we're trying to change your habits and identity around this so that
Yep.
you never have to conquer this mountain again, right? Like once we solve this, you're done, right? And you can just get to enjoy your life. So I think it's if we're expecting that of our clients, I think it's also unrealistic to expect 1 month complete blowouts with our ad spend and our marketing costs, just because it's like our business is not meant to be this amazing thing that can transform in 1 month. A lot of us want to be in business for many years, create a very valuable asset that we can cash flow into other wealth, potentially sell, impact as many lives as we possibly can, right? So I think for gym owners like myself and like everyone that's probably listening to this, like just take a step back and think more long term when it comes to marketing strategy. We tell our clients to take a long term view on their health. Let's take a longer term view on our business and where this stuff can really start to pay off once we kind of back off a little bit and look at a little bit more broader view. Blake, I'll pause there. Did you want to jump in, add anything? Blake, or Sherman, did you want to jump in and add anything?
No, I think it's exactly right. Like the way you consult, like why would you think that you can change your whole business? Like we hear calls all the time. Like basically, I've been running this thing for 10 years and I got 1 month left, right? You're like, so you expect us to change your whole business in 1 month? You wouldn't do the same thing for a client, right? Like you've been eating McDonald's for the last 10 years and you weigh 300 pounds and now you want to weigh 100 pounds. It's just
Yeah.
unrealistic, right? And so I think that's a really good point, and I know where you're going with this, but yeah, I think that's that you have to come into it with a mindset of like, this is a long-term investment. And I think the bigger thing too is like, now that we work with franchises, you also need to understand if you're not doing this, the reason they're surpassing you and those franchises are growing so much faster is because you're only reaching the people that are following you, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not reaching that outside scope because we all think that like, oh, everybody knows we're here, blah, blah, blah. But unless you stay in front of people, they don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll pivot to that here in a second, just because I think that's super important to understand that like the size of your current business is not directly correlated with whether or not you're qualified to work with us. I think it's more of a mindset issue of where are you trying to get to with your business and how quickly are you trying to get there? And then everything else just becomes a simple math problem, and that's how we like to consult clients. So going back to this idea of kind of zooming out real quick and just saying, okay, look, it's impossible for us to just knock it out of the park in month one. We don't consult our own clients within our gym to do that. So what's a little bit more realistic? So going back to what you said, Sherman, in your gym, the average revenue someone was willing to pay, let's call it ARM, whatever, was around
Yep.
200 to 250 bucks a month, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I know Two Brain puts out a lot of data on this, but like a very good solid length of engagement in our industry is 18 months or about a year and a half. I know some of us that are listening to this do a lot better than that. Some of us are trying to improve and work our way up to that. But if we can get somewhere around a year and a half, that puts you, at the very top of gyms in the world in terms of holding on to your clients. So if we view it through this lens of like, okay, on average, someone's going to spend $200 a month in my gym. If I'm really good at retention, I have a really good delivery of service, I have a really good culture within my gym, they're staying about 18 months. That's a pretty good benchmark. That means the lifetime value of that client over those 18 months is simply the product of those two numbers, or it's about $3,600, right?
Yep.
So if this client maybe was aware of our gym, they live in the neighborhood, maybe they've been seeing the Facebook ads, but they're not in that kind of window of buying opportunity just because their problem in their life isn't severe enough yet. Maybe it's the Facebook ad that entices them to sign up or do the consultation or whatever it is. But essentially, these ads on average, if we could create $3,600 of additional economic value in the business that wasn't originally there, that's a better way of understanding ROI, just because it's like, yes, we're not exactly sure if it was the Facebook ad, but if we're increasing the lead count and you're seeing your client count raise along with it, it's a pretty good correlation to say, hey, like, we're just getting more eyeballs on your business, generally speaking, right? So if we're creating $3,600 in additional economic value for your business, and again, we're goal profit margin for our business is around 30%. That means that the goal profit we're generating per client over their lifetime is around $1,080. Okay. Now remember, it cost us $225 to acquire that person. So the true ROI for that client over their lifetime is 380%. That's a better way of looking at it. Would that person have come to our business if they didn't see the Facebook ad? It's possible, but all we're doing is increasing the amount of eyeballs on the business. So it's safe to assume there is some sort of correlation. Okay. Let me pause there. You guys fill in the gaps or ask questions, or if anything comes to mind.
Yeah, I think one thing to remember is like these numbers are in addition to what you average already, right? So like if you're already getting 5 new clients on organic side for every single month for the past year, then you're getting 15 new clients, right? This is just
Correct.
the marketing. So this is something to think about. So, if you're listening to this, don't think, oh, I'm only going to get 10. It's going to be 10 plus whatever you average already, right? So I think that's one thing to really think about. Sherman, what else?
Yeah, I think that, going off what Tommy said, I believe that what a lot of people really have to understand is that, like, let's talk about a few numbers now. Let's say that you come to us because we look at a lot of back data when you first start working with us. So let's say on average, you're signing up 5 new people per month, ARM is whatever, $185. And then you work with us and now you're signing up, 12 new people per month. ARM has been raised a little bit to 215. Now, guys, one thing for us that we don't get involved in is where did the lead actually come from, right? Because that's going down a rabbit trail that you just don't want to deal with, because there's no way to really know, because these people that are coming in, like, they're just gonna sort of talk about the last thing that they saw, the last thing that they did. So it's just like, here, we look at the overall numbers. That's why we're sort of breaking this down for you guys. We look at, okay, the 6 months before you work with us, you averaged 4 new clients per month. All right, that's fine. Now you've been working with us for 6 months. Now you're averaging 11 new clients per month. Guys, that is a increase of 7 new people per month. We're not going down the train of, well, this person right here was a referral. This one only came through the website, because when you run paid marketing, like all the big companies do, Coke, Pepsi, Nike, you are going to see an increase across the board. Right? I always give Blake a hard time. I always say Blake clicks on everything online. I always get out like, Blake, bro, like, we do this for a living. Why are you clicking on this stuff? I don't click on anything, but I'll go to the website. I may think about it for a little bit, and then I'll end up on the website and be like, man, I want to do this. But without that paid marketing that company was doing, I would have never known, right? So, Tommy, I think that, to sort of go along with your numbers, people have to understand that, like, you have to look at the numbers before you start working with us, which you should know. That's why we're going to get on. And then what does it look like after working with us? Because for me, if I'm being honest, like, it's frustrating for me to see someone absolutely crush it, which we've seen this. They were averaging 5 new clients per month. Now they're averaging 12. And they're like, well, half of these just came through the website. And I'm just like, bro, it doesn't matter. It is a huge increase across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. And Blake, you mentioned it, really quick, but I want to kind of discuss, okay, like, if we kind of have this better understanding of the landscape of, like, how to think about ROI, let's talk about the levers that we can pull to make this even better, right? So if you're kind of like, okay, I get how ROI works. How do I make it even better in terms of just increasing the amount of return I am getting on working with Lasso, ad spend, whatever it is. Okay. Blake brought up a couple of good examples, right? Like referrals, organic traffic, super important. And there's a lot of different mentorship companies out there that will give you a lot of different strategies on how you can make those even better. And yes, referrals and organic traffic naturally will be a lot cheaper than paid advertising. We're not out here saying, hey guys, like we're going to be able to provide you, the cheapest leads in the world. That's not what we're saying. But what most gyms will start to run into is the amount of referrals, no matter how many bring a friend days that they offer, bring a friend weeks, no matter how many bonus incentive programs they offer, no matter how much content they produce, growth will stall up to the point where it's like, okay, I'm meeting my natural churn. Let's say it's like I'm losing somewhere between 5 to 7 members a month, and I can't get past that ceiling. And my vision for my business is a lot higher than where I'm currently at. That's where this stuff can start to make a lot of sense. And we work with a lot of clients that are in that position of like, look, I can't completely remove myself from the business, but I notice I'm not necessarily growing in the direction that I need to, even though I have a 3 or 4% churn rate, which is excellent, right? So it's like, how do I get to that next level, right? So that's one way a lot of clients that find us, they're having those conversations. The other way to look at this, and Blake brought up franchises. So what's interesting about working with franchises is, the playbook is already built for these people. It's just run the play as best as you can. So with franchises, because they have a very clear vision of where their business is going and what the end model or success looks like, they know kind of, okay, I'm trying to get to business to, I know we work with a lot of metabolic studios. It's going to be somewhere between 240 to 300 members is a complete studio. That's what like full capacity typically looks like, right?
Yep.
So then the conversation becomes, how quickly do I want to get to full capacity? Even if I'm just a startup, even if I only have 50 members, even if like, I don't necessarily have like all the money in the world to spend, they understand the math well enough to say, okay, but I could get to that $240 or $300 per member growth in 18 to 24 months if I'm willing to spend this much on my ad spend, just because they've sat down and they've done the numbers and they've been consulted from the franchisor on how to think about this stuff. I think all of us agree, just because we all built our businesses from scratch, we want to be able to provide that level of clarity to our clients without being franchisors, but just saying, hey, if you're the gym that's been in the game for a while, you got those 80 members and you're trying to figure out, how do I get this business to a place where I can start to remove myself, I'm creating careers for people, I'm happy, there's good, like I just feel good about this endeavor. You can also think about our services as kind of that catalyst to get you there within a predetermined period of time. So when I sit down with new clients, I'll say, hey, look, what does a perfect day look like? What are you trying to get the business to? Well, I'm trying to get to the place where I can hire a GM and replace myself. Okay, cool. Typically happens around 35,000 in top end revenue, because now you can afford a salary to pay, that GM what they're worth. That means we need to have about 170 members. You're currently at 80. If I make you the best salesperson in the world, we can get you there in about 18 months. How does that sound? If we paint that picture for them, now we're almost in the seat of the franchisor, giving them the playbook to say, hey, here's what it takes to get your business to the level you need to get to in order for you to feel good about this. That's what I love about paid advertising is, to me, it's a lot more predictable revenue than hoping I get a referral, than hoping that that piece of content I put out really resonates this time and it's going to get all the clicks. This to me is much more consistent. Yes, it's colder traffic, but my numbers month over month are a lot more consistent in terms of what it is that I'm closing. So for me, it just gives me, it's that security blanket I'm looking for as a business owner to say, I know I'm going to net somewhere around 7 to 9 members per month. So I know where I'm going to be at in the next 6 months. So I can kind of plan my business accordingly, right? That's where this stuff can get very, very powerful as well. So all of that to say, you guys, you don't need to be in a certain place in your business in order to work with us. I think you just have to change the mindset around what it is that you're working towards and see us as a catalyst to help you push in that direction. So I'll stop there. You guys fill in the gaps. Let me know if I missed something.
No, I think that's really good. And I think that, one big thing too is that these people just thinking about that long-term growth, like you keep saying. And I think that when you get to that point where you're just like banging your head against the wall of like, how do I grow? Because I'm losing how many I gain every single month. I've done this mentor company. I've done all these things and I can't, like, it's just pouring more gas on the fire. Like, that's all it is you need more leads. Like, because every gym is going to come to a spot where their churn meets, or their growth is going to meet their churn. And there's no, your systems won't make that. Like, there comes a point where you can't make your churn any better. Like Sherman was telling somebody, like, you're 3 to 5%. Like, if you're in a transient city, it might be a little higher. Like, people are just moving out all the time, right? Like, that's just the way life's going to be. Like, we were on a call and we looked through, this guy lost 5 to 6 members every single month for the last year. He's like, it's just going to be what it is. Like, it's a little higher than 3, but he's like, we've done everything we can. So now we know if he wants to grow to X, then it becomes, like you said, it's a numbers game, right? Okay, on average, spending $750, we're getting this. We either need to pull the lever of doing better at closing, or we need to spend more money, right?
Correct.
Like you said, the math problem. I think the last thing you said is really important too. Rather than just doing, like, you can't do bring a friend week every single month, right? Waking up and having a predictable amount of leads in your funnel every single month is so crucial, because so many gym owners, and I remember if I would like turn off my ads and then like there's no leads and you're like, how do I get these leads? How do I get more people? And then you're just banging your head against the wall being like, what can I recreate that worked that one time and that doesn't work the next time because it's the season, and or there just so happened to be a couple friends brought in that were really great, and like it's just predictable growth month over month. And yes, they're cold, so not everybody's going to sign up. Some people are going to sign up later too, like down the road. And so having these in, I know we thought about going down this road, and I guess I'll open the volume versus like super high quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a great CRM that's automated, always go for volume, right? Because you're going to get the quality, but you're going to get more people. And I always like to say, until they went out of business, half of them, if I know I needed a 20% coupon to Bed Bath & Beyond, I knew it was in my email, right? And so I could always go there. If you're in their email box, fitness and losing weight and getting healthier is always going to be a priority sooner or later down the road. So if you're always in their email box, they're going to think of you first, right? And so having that volume in the system, you become the number one person. And I always like to say, like, it doesn't even matter if they open your email as long as they see the headline, right? And constantly seeing it. So I think those are a lot of things that you covered, just like to go, that take it another step.
Yeah. In some nuance, because I understand, and I used to be one of them, like a lot of business owners have been burned by having tried this before, because it usually gets back to switching, the bait and switch tactics. Yeah. Yep. Or it gets back to like, it just wasn't in alignment with my vision of a gym. So like to Blake's point, it's a volume over quality. Now, if Blake really wanted to turn up the volume, Blake, what would be the ad copy? If we wanted $2, $3 ads, what are we offering here at Lasso? What would you do?
Oh, yeah. Come join our free 6-week challenge or 12-week, right? Like anything free. But yeah, and that's going to be, crazy.
So look, so here's the thing. Oh, you go ahead.
Go ahead, Sherman. Yeah. No, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I want to talk about this on our next episode. So, Tom, I want to have you back week to week, because we're running to that time frame where people are gonna turn off our podcast.
Okay.
So let's stop it here, and then we're going to do. So we're on this week, guys. Next week, tune in again, because we're gonna have Tommy back. We're gonna get this done, because I think that this is I really do believe this is an important conversation that we really have to talk about, because we've been doing this so long. Like, I always joke around. I was the first Lasso client. I met Blake. I was like, hey, I was running my own ads. I was like, hey, Blake, I need you to run my ads. And he was like, oh, I'll run them. And he ran them for free. What a knucklehead. But like, we really figured out a lot during that time, because I was reaching out to him, and he was giving me, and I was like, man, this is great. I was like, I bet people would really.
Concept.
We got proof of concept. But I remember thinking, like, man, this is a game changer because one, now this is off my plate. Two, like I'm getting all these leads. This dude's doing it better than I was doing it, and I don't have to deal with it at all. So I think on next episode, we're really going to dive into sort of the opportunity cost of working with us as well or not working with us. We're not saying everyone's going to work with us, guys. Like, we get that. But we're saying if you're on the fence, and then we can show you how this just makes sense if you want to have this off your plate, which I think most gym owners do, Tommy. But based on, like you're saying, a lot of people have been burned. So now they're like, hey, like, I don't know about this. So next week, we're going to talk about that, guys. So as usual, guys, tell a friend to tell a friend to tune in, and then we will talk to you guys next week about this. All right.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Gym Marketing Made Simple podcast with Blake Ruff and Sherman Merricks. We hope you enjoyed. We believe marketing should increase revenue and not waste money. So book your free call today. Head on over to lassoframework.com. That's lassoframework.com and find the right words, get more customers, and increase your revenue. We'll see you here next time.